I will give you a brief overview of the webinar before I hand it over to our moderator for the day. So today we are talking about global citizenship education, and we'll focus on the council's work in this area. So we'll have four of the councils presenting their work, and then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. You may use the Q&A function that you can see there to address any questions to the speakers that you might have. And now that we've done all the housekeeping stuff, I am sure we are ready to hear from the speakers today. But before that, I am delighted to introduce our moderator for the day, and that's Delaney Ryan. Delaney is a cultural worker, writer and artist living in Timbuktu, that is Halifax. She holds a BFA from Concordia University and received an MA in art history from Queen's University. Delaney has worked for the Canadian Museum of Immigration at Pier 21 and is a board member for the arts nonprofit Youth Art Connection. We'll put the links to the Canadian Museum of Immigration and the Youth Art Connection in the chat, just in case you're interested in checking them out. And now I will pass it over to Delaney to take it over.
Wonderful. Thank you, Juliana, for that introduction. I'm so pleased to be here today to moderate what I'm sure is going to be a really inspiring discussion of some of the amazing experiences in global citizenship education initiatives that are coming out of Canada right now. I will introduce each panelist in more detail as we go, but I would like to begin by thanking each of our wonderful panelists for taking this time out to share their work with us today. So please join me in welcoming Jackie Dowling of the ACIC, Nancy Burrow of AQOCI, James Cornelson of MCIC, and Wajd El Habibi of ACGC. So today we will be beginning with Jackie Dowling, who is a program manager at the Atlantic Council for International Cooperation, who will be illuminating some methodology to get us started. So Jackie has been working in the areas of community development, social justice, and youth engagement for the last 20 years nationally and internationally. At ACIC, Jackie works in program development and the implementation of youth programming at the local level, so with ACIC member organizations and non-member community groups, as well as at the national and international level, with other council members, nonprofits, and government offices. And drawing on her experience to date, Jackie is currently a master's candidate for the Adult Ed in Women's Leadership and Community Development at St. Francis Xavier, Nova Scotia. So again, thank you very much for taking some time out of what I'm sure is a pretty busy life that you're leading right now. But today we'll start off with you, and so congrats and thanks for getting us started.
There we go. I'm just going to get everything shared here. 1 second. There, perfect. Thanks so much. So I would like to start by first saying thank you to Delaney for guiding us through this today, and as well thank you to Judy and Mateo for putting all the work in for this. It's definitely been bits here and there, but not behind the scenes. So thanks for that, and thanks to folks from the other councils for joining us today. It's always nice to learn from each other in these moments. And as well, before I go on, I'd like to do, I guess, my own little land acknowledgement. I'm connecting from Mi'kma'ki, which is was mentioned. It's the unceded, unsurrendered ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq. And for me personally, I'm connecting from my home community of Shubenacadie, which is very close to Sipekne'katik First Nation, Mi'kmaq First Nation, and the home, I guess, of the Shubenacadie Residential School. I like to mention that myself because I think growing up in a community where you know, just every day there was this reminder. You know, I can remember way back when the residential school burned, like the whole community was out. And I think these kind of like key memories and moments and community experience growing up have led me to a point where so much of my learning and unlearning has come from some of that influence, and kind of really gives me this belief in the local pieces as well as the global pieces of global citizenship education. So I just wanted to acknowledge that as well. A little bit about ACIC. I don't want to go too much into this, but our vision is to connect Atlantic Canadians engaged as global citizens to create a just world. The mission, as is similar to most of the other councils, I think, is ACIC is a coalition of individuals, organizations, institutions working in the Atlantic region. We're committed to achieving global sustainability in a peaceful and healthy environment with just practices. Yeah, so you can read a little bit more of that mission there. I've been with ACIC on and off for about 8 years now. I had a little stint for parental leave and whatnot, and I'm still here and really loving my work with ACIC, which is always a bonus. A little bit about the youth side of ACIC's work. We have some really wonderful programs, but I'll be focusing today on our youth programs. We have a Global Citizenship Youth Conference that we host annually for youth ages 15 to 17. We have a community of practice, which is for sort of post-secondary university aspiring professionals in communities, which brings them together to learn some of the tips, tricks, and trends of entering into fields of social justice and international cooperation. We are currently coming to the end of a 5-year program, international internships for Indigenous youth, which I believe there was very shy of 100 youth doing internships overseas with Southern partners and virtually due to pandemic realities, which I'm sure we are all aware of. We are in our 3rd year now of running a photo voice program, which connects Atlantic Canadian youth to youth from Southern partner countries. And they document their experiences in community through photos. We offer workshops on global citizenship, SDGs, whatever it is folks in the community might come to us for. We also have youth funding, youth events connected to International Development Week. We have our global citizenship program, certificate, which is a program that focuses on engaging youth age 15 to 17. There's 3 knowledge modules and 2 action modules. It's over the span of about 6 months. And we're really committed to summer students, supporting internship programs for young folks in our communities and in the region who are interested in gaining some work experience. When I was thinking about what I was going to touch on today, I was right in the midst of doing a bunch of promotion for our Global Citizenship Conference, which will be coming up in July. And in the promotion, we actually have these 4 points: create, connect, change, and challenge. And when I was thinking about our global citizenship education work that we do, these 4 words kind of kept sticking out to me as I see them as common threads that weave throughout our various youth programs. And while I'm gonna touch on our youth programs today, I didn't want to give too much of go in too deep to them, because what I really wanted to touch on was some of the methods that we use in our youth programs that we have found to kind of lead to some successful longer term effective change that have helped us kind of get to where we are today in terms of our youth programs, and that help keep us current and relevant in terms of switching up our youth programs when need be, to respond to what the youth of the needs of our various youth are. So as I go through, I'm going to focus on these 4 sort of words of create, connect, change, and challenge. So for the first piece, I guess some of the things that we have found over the years that have really contributed to our global citizenship education programs for youth are that we really work with youth to more and more, we're working with youth to do these programs that are created by youth for youth. I know Delaney mentioned in my intro there that I'm doing a master's program right now, and I'm really lucky because it's kind of connected to this for youth by youth work. So it's really interesting for me to see the connections and to be able to connect my personal, professional and academic sort of like worlds at the moment. A really wonderful example of where we've been able to do this is about a year and a half ago, we had a youth advisory committee that was comprised of 8 youth from all 4 regions in all 4 provinces in the Atlantic. And those youth really helped influence our programs. And they actually completely created our global citizenship certificate program. So more and more, we're finding that bringing youth in, working with our summer students, with our interns who are from that youth demographic, doing these focus groups, having youth advisory councils, and having them create the programs that we are then delivering to youth is bringing about more engagement in our youth programs. And then it's wonderful for them, you know, they finish a program and it's something so solid and concrete that they can put on a resume and use, you know, as they navigate their budding professional careers or whatnot to say that they created a youth program. So we find doing more and more work around for youth by youth is really a beneficial practice. Something we've been working on for quite a while now is having programs that youth graduate through. So we've been really intentional in creating programs where youth can start out in that younger age of 14, 15 and sort of graduate through the programs if they're interested in doing that. All of our programs are standalone. You don't need to do one to do another, but we are finding more and more it's a way for us to develop deeper connections with youth. We have one youth who currently in this last year we've been working with quite a bit, and he started as a youth ambassador in 2015. So, you know, 8 years ago or so, he was a youth ambassador in one of our programs. And since then has moved from the Youth Ambassador Program to the Youth Advisory Council, helped created the Global Citizenship Program, has then gone on to be a subject matter expert and has spoken on panels for us many times. He just graduated from law school, and then this last winter actually attended the CSW in New York as part of the ICN youth delegation. So we also have stories of sisters. You know, we have 3 sisters that we love who always keep coming back to us, and one started as a youth ambassador, then attended the conference, then kept going on and doing this work. They've been youth leaders. They sit on our panels. So we find that having programs that youth can start with in terms of like a conference, which is an intro, go a little bit deeper into a certificate program, learn more, then come out and be leaders at our conference or sit on panels for us, be part of our internship programs, is something that has really contributed to some positive global citizenship engagement in terms of education. We also create programs around the SDGs. I'm sure most councils do at this point, but I just want to acknowledge that we find it a really great way to create programs that can focus on the interests of youth, because they're so vast in terms of there being 17, we're able to create programs where the youth can say, I'm interested in number 4, I'm interested in 5 or 11, and then their focus and programs can be on the specific SDG that they're interested in. And or we also use the SDGs in terms of we just recently finished a photo voice program that had a gender theme. So all of the 10 weeks of the photo voice program looked at different SDGs through the lens of gender. So it's a really great way for us to keep developing programs that respond to the needs of youth. Just a quick slide with our global citizenship certificate there, which I already mentioned. Connecting. So I think an important part of some of the work that we do is this connecting piece. So the 3 words that kind of resonated with me here were representation, intergenerational, and partners. One of the challenges for ACIC is that we are a regional council. So we do work in 4 provinces, the Atlantic provinces, so Newfoundland, PEI, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. So in terms terms of representations, that's one of the first places that we start, is that we are always looking for ways to ensure that we are representing all 4 regions, and not just the capitals of each region or the bigger communities in each region. You know, we have a strong partnership with the Nunatsia government, and every year for about, I'd say 8 or 9 years now, we have anywhere from 3 to 5 youth, Inuit youth from the coast of Labrador, who are really actively engaged in our program. And it's almost sort of taken on a little bit of life of its own, where now we've got a sister recommending a sister and coming in and doing our program. So representation in terms of like region and where we are, and ensuring that we're incorporating the youth in our communities from more isolated rural communities, as well as when we build our programs, we like to ensure that we have youth leadership at let's say our conference, for example, that the youth leadership reflects the youth who are attending the conference. So very, you know, we often will kind of wait a little bit. It might be a bit last minute, but it's really important to us to take a look at who's attending our conference, let's say, of the 50 youth that are attending, ensure that we have leaders that represent their various identities in so many ways. So I would say representation is a piece, intergenerational. Again, go back to our conference, and it's really key to ensure that the facilitators who are there, the elders that we bring in, the community representation comes from a whole range of ages, and that intergenerational piece is always key. We try really hard with our internships and our summer placement to provide mentorship opportunities. So that might not necessarily be ACIC staff. It could be connecting the students, the youth who work with us, to members who may have nice alignment with like potential careers that youth are going into. So that's a piece that we work really hard to ensure that youth who come to work with us can leave having the needs of ACIC met and their own personal needs, in terms of like finding programs that they are really interested in and working with those. The connect piece, I think it's also really important to mention partners. Our Photo Voice program is a wonderful example where for 10 weeks, you know, we just finished a program with the McVisser Foundation in Nigeria and the Girls Empowerment Network in Malawi, connecting 30 youth, 10 from the Atlantic region here, 10 from Nigeria, 10 from Malawi. And each week we had different speakers and subject matter experts from all 3 countries to ensure that the voice that all youth are hearing comes kind of that representation piece. So I would say ensuring that when we think of our programs, that we take that connection part and who we're connecting with, and be very intentional about that, is also key. Just a quick screenshot of our Photo Voice galleries, which we have 2 new galleries that will be live very soon. So make sure you follow us on social media to have a quick look at our Photo Voice galleries. Change is another sort of thread that I think of often. Who are the experts? You know, we've really, I think there's like a larger sort of like trend in, you know, in various fields to really be thinking of like what experience is valued and who are the experts that we're incorporating into our programs. So with that, we've been really intentional over the last few years to start including youth voices, not just into our global citizenship education, but into our, like for youth, but into our membership programs that we do, to all the panels that we do, so that we are looking at youth as subject matter experts. And not necessarily just valuing anyone with academic experience, but looking at lived experience, academic experience. There's so much in terms of what experience is. And folks who need to be, their voices need to be heard. So really sort of like when we think of change and we think of the programs that we're doing, one way that we see being able to affect change is being intentional with the voices that we're highlighting and putting forward. And I would say we also are really intentional too with, let's say our global citizenship certificate, you know, these modules that are run, the facilitators who come in are young folks as well. We've really heard from our younger audience that seeing like people who reflect their age and their identities is key to them. So we are responding in that way as well. I think in all of our programs, I know it's a bit of like a reflection tool or an evaluation tool, but the what, so what, now what really comes into how we talk about change in our youth programs and our global citizenship programs. So, you know, this is sort of like, what have we learned? What does that mean? Now, what do we do with it? Really using that as a bit of a thread to help affect change, to shift perspectives. And then I'm going to get to the last one here. I feel like I'm coming up on 10 minutes, so somebody feel free to let me know if I'm getting close. Just talking about challenge, I think, you know, it challenges the place where, like, you know, it's important for us as a team to look at ourselves, to look at our programs, to not, you know, I sort of look at youth work, global citizenship education, the education work that we do. I hold all of like the programming really lightly, because it's not, you know, it can be really personal. You can get attached to something and you can think like, I want this program to keep going or to be this, or I put this much work into it. But I think it's, you know, the reflexivity of it, you know, this piece where we hold it lightly, we look at it, we like, does it need to change? How does it need to change? Where can we affect change? What are the needs of the audiences that we're working with? And one of the places that's been really sort of fun for me to look at in terms of a challenge, an important challenge that helps us sort of like reflect the needs of groups and whatnot, is in our evaluation process. I think that evaluations are so traditionally these, like, you know, yes, no, score 1 to 10. In a lot of our youth programming, we actually have like this person with like a big, like an idea. So like the head, heart, hand piece of evaluation, and looking at like where youth feel that change from the programs that we do, in terms of like, is it a values change? Is it a heart change? Is it a skill change? And really sort of finding creative ways to, thanks, Delaney. I see ya. I'm coming up on my time. Really looking at creative ways to change our evaluation so that they resonate more with the youth that we work with, and they help impact our work as well. And then I just lastly wanted to mention our work as a staff team. You know, we've I just want to put this little slide up here from some work that we did with a facilitator about a year ago. You know, that when we're creating our programs, we really try to keep these sort of like this, like flares of change here forefront in our mind when we're thinking of what programs are like, and working as a staff team in terms of brainstorming with each other, trying to take down those silos so that we can use each other's strengths. Yeah, so questions at the end. This is ACIC. Thank you all so much. And I think Nancy's going next. So good luck. Back to Delaney, I guess.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jackie. That's really wonderful. So hold on to your questions till the end, but keep them in mind. OK, je vais maintenant parler français pour présenter notre prochaine panéliste, Nancy Burrows. Nancy nous rejoint du Québec aujourd'hui, où elle est chargée de programmes à l'Association québécoise de l'organisme de coopération internationale, comme responsable de l'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale, alors ICN. Une féministe engagée depuis plus de 30 ans, elle a notamment été agent de liaison au sein du secrétariat international de la Marche mondiale des femmes de 1998 à 2006. Arrivée à AQOC et au printemps 2018, elle est responsable de la mise en œuvre d'un plan d'action pour ECM visant à accroître la sensibilisation et la mobilisation de la population québécoise relativement à divers enjeux de solidarité internationale. La trame de fond de son engagement réside dans la lutte internationale contre le sexisme, le racisme et l'homophobie, sous le regard de l'analyse féministe intersectionnelle. Alors, merci et bienvenue au Nancy. Oh, Nancy, mute.
Merci. Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Tout va bien?
Merci.
Super. Bien, merci tout le monde. Donc, moi, je vais présenter un peu la vision générale de l'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale développée par la COCI et par ses membres. Et je vais terminer la présentation avec une présentation d'un projet particulier très stimulant en éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale, ou ECM, qui est présentement en cours à la COSI, au Québec, en tout cas. Donc, je vais commencer avec mon petit PowerPoint. Donc, ça va, je pense, vous le voyez. Alors, donc, la COSI est comme le ACIC et d'autres conseils, évidemment, mais nous, en termes de notre membership, peut-être juste le général, en termes de notre membership, nous sommes composés de 70 organisations membres. Donc, des individus ne sont pas membres de la COSI, contrairement à certains autres conseils. Donc, nous avons 70 organismes membres, donc de coopération et solidarité internationale. Pour commencer avec un petit brin d'histoire sur l'approche d'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale, vous rappelez qu'avec les autres conseils du RCC, il y a eu création de la ruche mondiale et d'ailleurs, je pense qu'on va pouvoir vous faire circuler après aux personnes participantes cette présentation PowerPoint et il y a des hyperliens en anglais et en français vers les références dont je parle, dont la ruche mondiale, qui est une mine d'or d'outils qui a été mis sur pied par le réseau et par les conseils. Et je crois que je ne m'en répète pas exactement l'année. Je pense que la ruche était en 2015 ou 2016, si je ne m'abuse. Et nous, à la COSI, on a eu nos premiers rendez-vous autour de la notion d'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale en 2017. Évidemment, nos membres faisaient l'engagement du public, faisaient toutes sortes d'activités de sensibilisation et tout ça, mais on ne parlait pas en termes d'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale comme notion pour l'englober avant ce rendez-vous en 2017. Et l'ECM est devenu une approche transversale pour la COSI par la suite. Donc, c'est dans nos planifications stratégiques de 5 ans qui a été lancée en 2015. Et nous avons, à partir de 2000, même avant 2017, en fait, il y a eu tout un travail de co-construction d'un cadre de référence. Et donc, ce cadre de référence-là est un document, et d'ailleurs, qui existe en anglais, français et en espagnol sur notre site web. Et ça définit un peu qu'est-ce que l'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale pour nous. C'est les fruits de travail de plus de 2 ans d'un comité. Nous avons eu un deuxième rendez-vous. Il y a eu 29 organismes de coopération internationale qui ont été impliqués dans la co-construction de notre définition commune de l'ECM qui a été adoptée finalement en 2019. Et nous avons fait, je vais vous montrer une petite capsule vidéo qui, dans le fond, prend qu'est-ce que la définition d'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale et en donne quelques exemples. Donc, je vais arrêter ça 2 secondes et nous allons faire un magnifique défi de montrer une vidéo en français puis écouter le son en anglais pour l'interprétation. Fait que je vais dire un petit 3, 2, 1, go pour Scott quand il peut partir le son en anglais. Donc, je pense que vous le voyez ici. On va dire 3, 2, 1, go!
À l'Association québécoise des organismes de coopération internationale, la COSI, nous constatons que le monde dans lequel nous vivons est jonché d'inégalités économiques, politiques, sociales et écologiques. Des rapports de pouvoir inégaux existent à l'intérieur de nos sociétés ainsi qu'entre les peuples et les nations. Nous croyons également qu'il nous appartient de changer les choses pour créer un monde plus juste et plus équitable. C'est dans ce contexte que la COSI a adopté, lors d'une assemblée générale en 2019, une définition commune de l'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale. L'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale, ou ECM, est une réponse à l'urgence d'agir face aux enjeux locaux et globaux. Elle se fonde sur la reconnaissance de l'autodétermination et de l'interdépendance des peuples et de leur interaction avec le vivant, sur l'engagement individuel et collectif pour la défense des droits des femmes, des droits humains et de la protection de l'environnement, et sur l'affirmation que nous sommes toutes et tous responsables du monde. Le CM permet de comprendre les causes structurelles des rapports de pouvoir qui créent des injustices et des inégalités. Véritable appel à l'action, le CM regroupe un ensemble de pratiques faisant la promotion de la solidarité, de l'acquisition de connaissances, de la prise de conscience et d'une transformation sociale concrète et positive. Elle privilégie l'action en réciprocité avec les personnes et les communautés dans une perspective de co-construction, de savoir-être et de pouvoir d'agir. Les actions en ECM passent par 5 grands pôles. La sensibilisation, pour faire prendre conscience au grand public des multiples enjeux qui touchent à la solidarité internationale. La formation, pour renforcer les capacités, comprendre les rapports de pouvoir et d'inégalité, tant à l'échelle locale que globale. La recherche, pour enrichir ou construire de nouvelles connaissances dans un esprit de collaboration entre les personnes et les groupes. La mobilisation des gens dans un mouvement commun pour valoriser le collectif et mettre de l'avant l'apprentissage par l'agir. Le plaidoyer pour faire pression sur les affaires publiques et politiques afin de proposer des alternatives et augmenter notre impact politique. Le travail des organismes de coopération internationale en partenariat avec d'autres groupes mène à des changements concrets et c'est justement ça le CM. C'est des ateliers, des conférences, de l'animation scolaire, des marches, des kiosques, du mentorat, des événements publics, des cercles d'éducation populaire, du théâtre-forum, de la recherche-action, des signatures de pétitions, des rencontres de députés et bien plus. La différence se fait parce que des milliers de gens s'impliquent. Par exemple, Elodie et d'autres élèves ont mobilisé leur entourage pour faire changer le programme éducatif de leur école afin d'inclure l'éducation internationale et environnementale dans les cours. Manu a participé à Québec sans frontières comme des milliers d'autres jeunes avant lui. Après avoir vécu une expérience de solidarité internationale au Sénégal, il s'est impliqué au retour dans un groupe d'aide aux personnes itinérantes pour devenir un acteur de changement local. Marc Arthur a fait signer des pétitions et participé à des marches pour soutenir la campagne mondiale qui a contribué à l'élimination de la dette des pays les plus pauvres du monde. Aïcha et des jeunes de sa communauté ont sensibilisé les élèves du secondaire en créant une application web contre l'intimidation et pour l'inclusion. Suite à des activités de sensibilisation et divers moyens de pression, l'organisme de David a réussi à ce que leur municipalité obtienne la désignation de ville équitable. Suite à une conférence avec les défenseurs des droits des femmes, plus de Québécoises et Québécois, comme Rachida, sont maintenant sensibilisés aux injustices et impacts sur les femmes et les autochtones générés par les compagnies minières canadiennes. C'est ça, le CM. Des gens qui se mobilisent pour changer les choses dans leur milieu en développant des liens de solidarité et d'entraide. Chaque groupe et chaque individu est libre d'adapter l'ECM à ses besoins et ses réalités. Par l'engagement, la sensibilisation, la mobilisation, le plaidoyer et le partage d'expériences, les personnes apprenantes deviennent des actrices de changement pour l'édification d'un monde égalitaire, juste, équitable, inclusif, durable, solidaire et pacifique. Le CM est donc une démarche globale qui vise à développer ou renforcer chez les individus et les collectivités les capacités, la compétence et l'engagement. Ces 3 pôles de transformation entraînent des changements personnels dans nos gestes et comportements, des changements relationnels dans nos relations avec les autres et la planète, et finalement des changements systémiques dans nos politiques et dans l'organisation socio-économique et environnementale. Le CM renforce ainsi le développement de rapports de réciprocité et d'interdépendance plus justes et équitables entre les personnes et les peuples. C'est sur le terrain qu'on voit le mieux à quoi ressemble le CM. Grâce au travail constant de milliers de personnes membres d'organismes de coopération et de solidarité internationale, nous avançons tous les jours vers un monde plus juste, égalitaire et respectueux des droits humains. Le CM sert alors de guide pour l'action et de cadre de référence commun pour que nous puissions avancer ensemble vers un monde meilleur, ici et ailleurs. Si vous désirez en apprendre davantage, le document explicatif de l'ECM est disponible en français, en espagnol et en anglais sur le site internet de l'ACOSI au www.acosi.qc.ca/ECM.
Alors, ça vous donne un petit aperçu de qu'est-ce que l'ECM selon l'ACOSI et ses membres. Et je vais juste poursuivre avec, ce ne sera pas long, de redonner mon, excusez, PowerPoint. Alors, oups. Voilà. Donc, Je vais rapidement, dans le fond, je voulais juste vous montrer que si vous êtes intéressé à en apprendre plus sur les 5 grands pôles de l'ECM, sensibilisation, formation, recherche, mobilisation et plaidoyer, on a disponible en anglais et en français sur notre site web, donc un petit guide pour qui, pourquoi, comment, la stratégie et tout ça. Et ça, on a vu ça dans la vidéo, j'avais oublié qu'il était là. Donc, je voulais juste rapidement vous donner quelques faits saillants. Il y a 2 ans, nous avons fait un sondage auprès des membres de la COSI pour voir c'est quoi leur pratique en ECM. Et en termes des populations ciblées par les activités, donc c'est la population en général, les activités s'adressent majoritairement à la population générale, suivie par les jeunes de 18-35 ans. Ensuite, bon, il y a des adultes d'âge scolaire aussi pour 63% des OCI. Et il y a évidemment, bon, d'autres que c'est juste pour des adultes et d'autres que il y a d'autres populations cibles selon les différents types d'activités. Ça peut être des activités qui s'adressent particulièrement à des femmes ou particulièrement à des personnes autochtones ou d'autres populations en particulier. Et les lieux des activités. Donc, contrairement à d'autres conseils, la notion d'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale est consacrée à ce que l'on fait dans le milieu scolaire. Pour la COSI, ça inclut des activités éducatives dans les espaces formels, non formels et informels. Donc, dans les espaces formels, il y a des activités d'ECM qui se passent dans les établissements d'enseignement, dans les écoles aux adultes, dans d'autres types d'écoles ou de centres de formation. Dans les espaces non formels, donc structurés, mais parallèles au système officiel diplômante, là, je dirais. Donc, des lieux d'éducation populaire, le milieu parascolaire, d'autres milieux comme le milieu syndical ou des organismes communautaires. Et il y a aussi des activités d'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale qui se passent dans les espaces informels. Donc, des situations non structurées, que ce soit dans les lieux de divertissement, des fois c'est des parcs, des festivals, des activités extérieures ou dans la vie quotidienne, sur le marché de travail, dans les endroits de loisirs ou de sport. Donc, ça, c'est un peu le portrait. Et les types d'activités, bien, on a vu un peu dans la vidéo, mais ça, c'est d'autres types, donc d'exemples, des activités jeunesse, production de matériel, accompagnement, formation, webinaire, atelier. Et là, j'arrive à la fin, je pense, de mon temps alloué. Très rapidement, on voulait juste vous parler d'un projet qu'on a lancé cette année qui s'appelle le collectif Ensemble pour l'éducation citoyenne. Au Québec, il y a un nouveau cours obligatoire qui sera implanté dans les 2795 écoles primaires et secondaires à travers le Québec dès l'automne 2024. Donc, c'est un cours obligatoire qui les enfants vont le suivre pendant 10 des 11 ans entre la première année et la dernière année de l'école de secondaire. Donc, c'est un cours de l'âge de 6 à 17 ans. Ça s'appelle Culture et citoyenneté québécoise. Et c'est un cours qui basé sur le dialogue et la pensée critique. Alors, avec l'arrivée de ce nouveau cours-là, il y a des petites affaires qui n'ont pas marché dans mon visuel. Les points d'interrogation sont supposés être des petites flèches. Donc, c'est pour donner une idée de quelques-unes des thématiques abordées par ce cours obligatoire. On parle d'identité, la relation à soi, la planète, l'éducation à la sexualité, le rapport au numérique, l'organisation politique et sociale, la culture religieuse, la vision du monde, la vie en société, l'égalité, l'inclusion sociale, l'engagement social, droits et libertés, pouvoir, inégalité sociale, environnement et transition écologique. Donc, c'est quelques-uns des thèmes qui seront traités de la première année à la dernière année, première année du primaire à la dernière année du secondaire, et donc offerts aux jeunes. Alors, il y a un besoin criant de matériel pédagogique. Au Québec, le ministère de l'Éducation ne donne pas ou ne crée pas crée le programme avec des objectifs pédagogiques, mais ne crée pas le matériel comme tel. Donc, à l'initiative de la COSI et des membres, nous avons lancé un collectif de coordination de cette collective-là avec d'autres groupes, dont un groupe féministe en éducation à la sexualité, un groupe autochtone en décolonisation et d'autres. Et on va produire des recueils d'activités éducatives pour offrir aux professeurs par le biais de la co-construction. Et on va donc prendre le matériel, tous les groupes, vous voyez dans les logos des groupes écologistes et autres, défense de droits, qui sont membres du collectif. Et on va le travailler avec du matériel, avec des professeurs et des conseillers pédagogiques. Je termine, c'est mon dernier diapo de Lenny. Et donc, c'est vraiment l'idée de co-construire du matériel pédagogique pour ce cours-là avec des outils qui sont inspirés de l'éducation populaire, l'apprentissage expérientiel et qui vont pouvoir donc offrir aux professeurs du matériel pédagogique. Donc, dans une perspective d'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale. Là, j'ai fini. Donc, je peux répondre tantôt aux questions.
Merci beaucoup, Nancy. Alors, encore, on a la question à la fin, mais pour la prochaine, I will go back to speaking in English, but today we have James Cornelson. He's joining us from Manitoba Council for International Cooperation in Winnipeg, along with Elle, who will be kind of talking more about some of the creative work that MCIC has been doing with youth. But James has worked in the field of international development and humanitarian assistance for 18 years. So as a teacher by profession, James served as a community development worker with Mennonite Central Committee in Mozambique, and later went on to work as a public engagement coordinator for Canadian Food Grains Bank. So James' experience in public engagement includes leading numerous learning tours on global food security to countries in the sub-Saharan Africa, Asia, Central America, and the Middle East. And he has developed educational activities for Canadians to learn about global issues and given leadership to learning and advocacy campaigns, encouraging Canada to do more on international aid and development assistance. So thank you very much for being here, James and Aline, and you can go right ahead.
Thanks so much, Delaney, and thanks to the other presenters. I'm happy to be here and joining you from Treaty 1 territory, the ancestral lands of Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene nations, and also the national homeland of the Red River Métis. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about arts-based engagement and specifically spoken word, so it's a bit more specific. I want to say up front that what I'm sharing is really the work of our Inspire team, partners, participants, and MCIC has been doing programming with schools in Manitoba for many years. So I want to give a quick overview of some of our schools programming and then focus more specifically on our spoken word project called Voices for Change. So in terms of our engagement work, looking at more awareness building, our work with the Insight 360-degree cylinder this last 3 months, January, February, March, was mainly about raising awareness and showing global stories for students and youth on global issues and sustainable development. Just a few numbers there for you to show you the wider kind of engagement. And also book lists. We do reading challenges and book lists, and so these are sent out to school libraries, and librarians are invited to put up displays during International Development Week. And this is another example of sort of building awareness. And they love the classroom pizza parties, by the way. Our classroom workshops take the approach of engaging directly with students and educators using an experiential approach, which goes deeper into topics related to the SDGs. So those are very hands-on. And we have a variety of workshops that we deliver, both directly to students inside classrooms by request, but also we model them for teachers in professional development sessions. And so we work very closely with teachers across Manitoba. And speaking of which, we really appreciate building relationships. I think that's something Jackie mentioned and is very important to the way we do the public engagement work. We recognize teachers as strategic partners, so amplifying their own voices and their role in encouraging global citizenship amongst Manitoba students and youth. So a big focus of our programming is to give students a voice, to recognize that voice either by creating contests or recognizing their achievements. These are students who submitted Take Action projects, and then that's an activity directly linked with a unique Manitoba curriculum course for grade 12 called Global Issues that MCIC actually helped to shape. So it sounded very similar to some of the things Nancy was talking about. So now I wanted to focus just a little bit more on Voices for Change. This is, we've been doing spoken word since 2014 to present during IDW. In 2018, we changed the name to Voices for Change. to more reflect what's actually happening. And this reflects the goals of the program. So we've worked with anywhere from 1 to 6 youth participants at a time, and we get applicants from Manitoba high schools. This year, we had the amazing fortune to have Eileen Cohan, a grade 11 student in Winnipeg, apply for our Voices for Change project. And she's joining us with, I'll ask her to speak in a minute, but just want to talk a little bit about the program first. So she applied, and Eileen brought a unique set of theater and poetry skills to the project, along with some amazing lived experience, being a relatively recent immigrant from Iran and coming from that country, witnessing what has been happening there, but also adapting to living in Canada and mixing that with all the challenges of being a young person, identity, purpose, vocation, and so on. And all this, Eileen was able to put eloquently into her poem called Someday. And I will drop the link to the YouTube video a little later, or I think it's being dropped into the chat at some point. So, and then of course, it's performed, and perform it she has definitely done. She's performed it on radio, Zoom, in person, and at a few different events to about 400 people at a few different events. So including the International Development Week event at the Manitoba Legislature last February, lots of elected officials in the mix here with other partners and staff and whatnot from MCIC's circle and network. So Eileen continues to receive requests to perform. Her video has been viewed about 1,800 times, and she's, it's a bit long to share in this short presentation, but again, I'll share the link so you can check it out. Please share if you feel led. She also featured on CBC's local radio program, Up to Speed. And coincidentally, this radio feature was facilitated because somebody reached out from the CBC once they saw it by a CBC staffer who happened to be a past participant of our Voices for Change project a few years ago. So that was a pretty cool connection. And the IDW, International Development Week performance, was also featured in other media. For example, the Winnipeg Free Press, which is our local newspaper here in Winnipeg. So some of the key aspects of spoken word or slam poetry, which is called, as a tool for global citizenship. Some of these aspects are, number one, youth. You need youth with skills and interest in theater, along with their passion, knowledge, and lived experience. Number two, this is arts-based engagement, something that engages a person through their creativity, intuition, and imagination. And these are the things that actually move us. And when we say move us, they create change. So empathy, not surprisingly, is also associated with that same part of the brain. So logic and science, of course, they form the basis of what we do, but we are really moved as human beings through the creative, imaginative, and intuitive parts of our brains. And it's kind of the why and the how of social change. I want to talk a little bit about a third thing, which is development expertise. So we work with a consultant named Steve Locke. He is an MCI. He's been an MCIC partner for many years. Helped us introduce slam poetry. He calls it slam poetry. We call it spoken word. He has experience, a lot of experience working in the Manitoba school context, so with youth. So he's also deeply committed to youth development. And according to Steve, I had a nice interview with him the other day. Slam has a big impact because it has calls to action embedded in the genre. And it's performed live, so there's an immediate emotional connection with an audience, and it puts the artist as an instrument for social change. Steve creates the environment for creativity. And, you know, it has some risk and vulnerability to it, but the approach he takes is also to bring his own vulnerability. He inspires confidence in participants through the development sessions, and it's by nature a participatory process. So production and promotion is, of course, I can't say enough about the skills of our team members who bring the art to life through video, medium, and using various platforms to connect with all kinds of audiences. But I should note the emphasis is on the live performances, whether it's virtual or an in-person. So those live experiences are really important. A little bit of the background of the making of. And Eileen, I'm not sure if you saw that or not, but this is just one of the ways we just promoted it. I'm going to end with a quote from a participant of a live online event featuring Someday, the poem. This is also a young Iranian woman, an immigrant who happens to be from Alberta and who is active in organizing within the Iranian community there and beyond, and who actually attended one of the online events. And I quote, Eileen's words were like a review of all the emotions I experienced as an Iranian woman and as an immigrant. The pain that we went through over the years and grew up with and could never have been spoken of because of Iran's dictatorship regime was being said aloud by Eileen. Her poem was a reminder for me that not a single Iranian woman could experience a normal life, whether they lived inside Iran or not, although being in Iran is much worse. This photo I wanted to include because it was taken at the annual Yalda night with the Iranian community of Manitoba, where she also performed it live. And I'm extremely excited. First of all, I wanted to say again, another shout out to our team who worked together to bring about this type of programming. Proud to share about their work as for me, someone who pulls like reports together and that sort of thing. So yeah, I just want to give Eileen a chance. At first, I was interviewing her the other day, saying, "Hey, tell me a bit more about this project, its impact on you." And she said she volunteered quickly to come and be a part of this webinar. So I wanted to give Eileen a couple of minutes to just share a little bit about it. So Eileen, if you can unmute and just talk a little bit about. I'll just give you three quick questions. The first one is, how and why did you first get involved in Voices for Change?
Well, first off, thank you so much for everything. Like being here is pretty cool. Like
I'm not sure we can
always
hear.
love.
Can folks hear her?
How about now? Can you hear it? Or
Yeah, we can hear.
I don't think we got a chance to test her audio.
Okay. Well, first off, thank you so much for letting me be a part of this again.
Eileen, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'm not sure if others can.
James, I think you're maybe just on a channel or something, yeah. But everyone else.
Sorry, Eileen, you can go ahead.
Okay. Well, so how and I heard about this? Well, like, I believe it was through a school thing. Like my art teacher, she always puts out on like the school website about opportunities like this that come up. So I saw it, and I had always been really passionate about poetry, and I had, as an Iranian, always, been involved in human rights, and I had always wanted to help somehow. And when I heard about it, I thought that this was like a perfect chance because it was like art, but also human rights. And I didn't know that it was going to be like this big. I thought it was just going to be a small thing, but like hearing that it was going to be on YouTube and everything, it was great. So yeah, like I was just really happy to be a part of it.
So, and tell me a bit more, how's this project had an impact on your understanding of what it means to be a global citizen?
I'd say that it definitely made me think about it a lot more again, because before I had moved, it was something that, as you mentioned, it's like, as an Iranian girl or woman, it's something that you're faced with on a daily basis. And, when I moved here, obviously, like, I still thought about it, but it's like I got to think about it again, and I got to think about how it's still there, even though, like, in some places, it might, discrimination against women might be shown differently, or like it might be more subtle versus, let's say, how it is in Iran. But, being a part of this project, I got to like research a bit more about some of the other people's projects. Like I watched them on YouTube and I saw all these different topics. Like I focus more on like women's rights, but I saw that there was, for example, global warming and all of these things, and it really made me think about it a lot more and be more aware of it.
That's awesome. How, so more generally, how has the project moved you or changed you?
I had always wanted to somehow share my experiences, like to someone who isn't necessarily in my close group of friends or isn't my family. And just like being able to actually put in all these things that I've experienced and felt in the past couple of years in a poem, it made all these experiences more concrete. Like, because when time passes, things become memories. So you aren't really aware of all the things that happened to you. But just like writing it down like that and then performing it made me realize that it's always going to be a part of my life. So
That's great. We got about a minute left, and I just wondered if you had anything else you wanted to add before you have to go back to class. I know you're probably skipping class to be here, and
that's okay. My teacher's fine. Well, honestly, I'd say that I think art has always been a part of being able to bring about change in the world, like whether that's like music or poetry or paintings or just going to art galleries. And I feel like it's always going to be a part of that, because things like what's happening in Iran they're always going to be relevant. So like, as long as things are happening, poetry is going to happen as well. So yeah, that's what I would say.
thanks. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always great to connect. And I'm going to have to turn it. I'm sorry we're out of time, and I'm not sure if Eileen will be able to be around for question time, but I'm really thankful to you for joining us, Eileen, today. And back to you, Delaney.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, James. And thanks very much, Eileen, for a special guest spot. It really kind of helps to bring forward what it is that the work that MCIC is doing. So wonderful to be able to get that first person account. So thank you very much for taking the time out of your day. So maintenant, enfin et surtout, nous sommes rejoints par Wajd El-Alabi de ICN pour conclure nos panélistes avant de passer aux questions. Alors, elle ne veut pas parler en français, mais moi, j'ai besoin de parler en français pour ça. Alors, Wajd est responsable de l'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale pour le Programming Inspiring Action de l'Alberta Conseil pour la coopération mondiale. Elle est titulaire d'un baccalauréat honorifique en psychologie de l'Université de l'Alberta et d'une maîtresse de civilisation de Proche et du Moyen-Orient, de même qu'en études diasporiques et transnationales de l'Université de Toronto. Avant de rejoindre ACGC, elle a occupé divers postes de recherche liés aux technologies climatiques durables, à la préservation et au développement du patrimoine culturel et la communication interculturelle au Canada. Elle est professeure d'anglais langue seconde, ayant enseigné et travaillé bénévolement pour la Croix-Rouge libanaise et diverses ONG au Moyen-Orient. Elle continue d'explorer la manière dont le patrimoine culturel peut être intégré dans les projets de développement international, mobilisés pour promouvoir la paix dans les sociétés sortant d'un conflit et promu dans les écoles canadiennes pour inspirer à la fois des élèves et les enseignants. Alors, merci beaucoup, Wajd, et vous pouvez commencer. You can start. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much, Delaney, for the introductions, and thank you for having me. My name is Wajd, and I am currently the Global Citizenship Education Lead for Inspiring Action Program, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you who we are as an organization, our approach to global citizenship education, and some of the programs that we have held and continue to implement to promote global citizenship in Alberta. So the Alberta Council for Global Cooperation, or ACGC, is a network of over 40 Alberta-based member organizations and individuals focused on sustainable development and global citizenship. We aim to mobilize Albertans to become more active global citizens engaged in sustainable development and gender equality, especially through increasing awareness, sharing knowledge, and strengthening connections to act on global issues. Our vision is that all people can fulfill their potential and prosper, become engaged citizens in peaceful, just, and inclusive societies, and thrive in a healthy, sustainable world. Again, we aim to largely mobilize Albertans to become global citizens, and we do this by building the capacity of network organizations representing members' interests with government and others, and increasing the awareness, knowledge, and connections of Albertans in global issues. One of our primary vehicles of global citizenship promotion and knowledge transmission is really education. At ACGC, we understand global citizenship education to be an ethos and a way in which to see and understand the world. It refers to a sense of belonging to the global community and common humanity, with its presumed members experiencing solidarity and collective identity among themselves, and collective responsibility to act at the global and the local level. ACGC's Learn, Share, Act model of global citizenship education is based on cognitive, social, emotional, and behavioral domains of learning, with the idea being that when learning opportunities are designed and implemented with these three domains considered, outcomes and engagement will be stronger. We view global citizenship education to encompass the programs, conversations, resources, and guides that allow educators and youth to embody this concept of global citizenship. Two of our main youth programs targeting youth aged 18 to 24 include our SDG Hub and our Global Connect program. The SDG Hub, which ended in its 5th and final year just in February, was designed with the aim of providing opportunities for young people in Alberta to fulfill the mandate of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The Hub was a space for young Albertan residents to meet and engage in a meaningful dialogue, to collaborate, and to take action in their communities on issues that they're passionate about. The youth also had a chance to develop personal and employment-related skills, to learn from mentors, and to increase their awareness of the benefits of serving their communities. Over the past 5 years, we've seen 49 youth complete this program with us. A second major youth experiential learning program is Global Connect, which ACGC has been running since 2010, though it was previously called the Change Your World Youth Leadership Program. In the past, youth traveled internationally to visit international development projects in places like Ethiopia and Peru, run collaboratively by our partner organizations. Beginning in 2019, with limits on international travel, we started taking a new approach. We started partnering with our members and other projects and initiatives to provide youth the opportunity to learn about international cooperation through dialogue and practical hands-on learning via site visits to Alberta-based organizations working in the fields of international development. So over the summer and into the fall, Global Connect participants implement public engagement activities by opening up conversations around some of the lessons learned throughout the Global Connect experience. In addition to youth programs, ACGC is largely focusing on targeting children in K-12 and educators working with these groups. So these include resources and workshops. And the following 3 resources are the primary current ones offered by ACGC. Our Problem and Solution Trees resource was originally created in partnership with an Edmonton school in 2017 to 18. But in 2020 and 21, we redesigned the workshops and released in early 2022. And this consisted of various case studies on 2 change makers. And this resource models how to use problem and solution trees, which is a type of mind map used by international development organizations to think through the root causes of a community issue, to take appropriate action, and to evaluate the impact. Another resource is our Beyond a Single Stories activity, created between 2020 and 21. This was designed to allow grades 7 to 12 students to explore the ways that intersecting identities can affect a person's reality and quality of life. By considering these diverse viewpoints within a community, students can really gain an understanding of the complexities of a certain community's challenges and strengths. Each case study was provided and in the activity was created in partnership and solidarity with an international cooperation organizations and its international partners. For example, we feature a case study developed with Canadian Women for Women in Afghanistan and an India case study developed from the Alberta-based organization COST. Our third major resource is one that James already sort of touched on, and it's called the Better World is in Sight project. And following the successful deployment of the immersive Better World is in Sight dome across the prairies, ACGC repackaged the contents and the workshops to be able to offer an opportunity for Alberta schools to continue to engage with the content in a new way. And this consisted of creating immersive 3D cardboard glasses that could be connected to student phones where they could watch videos on various international and global issues. When creating workshops in general, ACGC aims to design and package resources in a way that teachers can also access and use them themselves as well. In addition to physical resources and classroom workshops, ACGC virtually holds an educator community of practice or an educator roundtable once a month. And this started in the spring of 2020 with the onset of COVID-19, where ACGC began regular meetings of teachers to offer space for support and engagement. And the first year this started as a spring book club, but the desire of teachers to stay connected meant that the following 2 years, we designed something different, particularly an educator community of practice. And from 2022 to 2023, we began calling this initiative a roundtable. And we really focused on connecting ACGC member organizations and their experiences with the educators. So the educators meet 6 to 7 times per school year from October to June, and they discuss topics such as deliberative dialogue in classrooms and terror management in students. ACGC has also a yearly presence at multiple teachers' conventions across the province where workshops are held to teach educators how to use these various tools and resources. And that is what we have for you today. I'm happy to take any questions, and thank you so much again for listening.
Wonderful. Merci beaucoup, West. So we will be moving on to the questions portion of this webinar. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat there and we will pull them up. We'll grab all of our panelists together. So you can take a moment to put in any questions that you may have. What I may just start us off with, if we have everyone here, is I'm interested to know how you found that for this kind of work in education and in connecting with youth particularly, have you found that the COVID-19 pandemic and the transition to working remotely, how did that affect what you were doing and the kind of work that you were able to do? And do you find that there are things that you've learned from that period of time that you're going to be taking forward, or maybe you're just feeling happy to be able to go back to more kind of in-person work as we move forward out of the emergency phase of the pandemic? But I'd be interested to know if you have any kind of thoughts on how that affected what you're actually able to do. So that's more of an open question if we have anyone who wants to pipe up. Yeah, Nancy.
Ouais, moi, je peux répondre pas nécessairement en lien avec les jeunes, parce qu'à l'ACOSI, c'est pas nous qui intervenons directement auprès des jeunes, mais c'est nos membres qui le font auprès des jeunes. Mais quand je pense à d'autres types d'activités d'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale qu'on fait depuis le début de la pandémie à l'ACOSI, je pense à nos formations, je pense à l'école féministe que nous organisons, par exemple, et le fait de le faire virtuellement a permis à des partenaires du Sud de participer à nos activités d'éducation à la citoyenneté mondiale comme c'était pas possible par le passé. Et c'est un des effets vraiment positifs de la pandémie ou du travail virtuel, c'est de pouvoir avoir des dialogues, des discussions, même des projets de co-construction avec non seulement des personnes ici, pour notre part au Québec, mais aussi avec des partenaires qui se trouvent en Afrique, en Amérique latine, en Asie. Tout ça fait que c'est une des choses positives qu'on trouve, nous, l'évaluation du virtuel.
Bien sûr, merci. If we have other answers for that question, I'd be happy to talk about that, but we also have a question in the chat if we would like to move on. So for West, how many teachers do you have in your roundtable meetings? Do you have an ACGC staff member attend or facilitate those meetings, or is it more for the teachers to work together? And that's a question coming from Amanda Benson. Thank you, Amanda.
Hello, Amanda. Thank you for your question. We currently have about 40 teachers across the province registered for our roundtables. On average, we get between 10 and 20, so sometimes it's a smaller group, but sometimes we do get about 20 teachers sitting in. And our facilitator for those conversations is Bill Howe. He is an educator and has been involved sort of in the field of global citizenship education for a while now. But in addition to Bill facilitating the sessions, we also usually invite guests. So last month we had Dr. Catherine Van Kessel, who is she was at the University of Alberta, currently in Texas, and does a lot of work on terror management theory in students. So we often start off our sessions with a presentation from sort of an expert, and then Bill facilitates sort of the discussion around that.
Great. All right, we're not seeing any further questions in the chat so far, so please type quickly if you've got one. Okay, wonderful, and we've got an answer there from Amanda, so that I think we answered the question. Perfect. So maybe just for now, I'll continue to ask my own questions. But I was wondering about, in terms of global citizenship education, is there a way that you, and I would say this is an open question as well, whoever wants to kind of jump in. There's some obviously conversation around paternalism or white saviorism when you talk about international development in a general kind of way. Are there ways that you can kind of point to in your organizations that you are trying to be aware of that and be aware of how to be incorporating international development and global citizenship education in a mindful way as you kind of go forward with your community, your various communities that you're trying to connect with? Or what those kind of strategies look like to kind of ensure an ethical way of operating.
Sorry, you've met the additional ACIC coworker here, Millie, who often attends our staff meetings. I would just say, I know in terms of youth programming that we do at ACIC, we've been kind of intentional to, and this might be like I don't know if it's okay to say out loud or not, but like when we talk about structures with youth, we make sure that we talk about structures at all levels, right? So when we're looking at the SDGs, we talk about the UN, right? And what are some like highs and lows, pros and cons of the UN? What are some highs, lows, pros, cons, all of those things of like systems in terms of nonprofits, in terms of academic institutions. So I think we really try to have those conversations with youth, because every system should be looked at in a like a larger scale and seeing like the good and the not so great that can come from them. And I would also say, in terms of our global citizenship certificate, our conference that we do with youth, we always, like our 3 knowledge modules are on the SDGs, species, intersectionality and anti-oppression, and Indigenous realities. I think we really sort of tackle it a little bit by ensuring that we're looking at the local pieces that impact us right here most directly, and then making those connections global. And in addition, I would say another piece is offering sort of like caucusing spaces or identity sort of safe spaces. So in terms of our most recent photo voice was it was an all women's program for female two-spirit identified folks, right? Female identified two-spirit folks. And those conversations were really different than conversations that had happened in other photo voice programs. So at the programming level, I think in terms of the spaces we provide and the conversations that we prompt a bit.
Wonderful. So we do have a question in the chat coming from Bill Howe. So this is for James. Is there a plan for Eileen or other performers to publish their poems as a collection? I would love to have a copy of their poems to use in the classroom, especially contextualized within the issues they address, which is a very exciting kind of question, I'm sure, for you, James.
Yeah, actually, we have collected them sort of on our website as spoken word sort of video productions. I don't think we have a written down somewhere or collected them in that way, but that's a great idea. We could certainly look at doing that. We have sort of, encouraged, submit this to a poetry contest and things like that. But I'm happy to discuss that with my team, for sure.
Wonderful. And we might come out of this with a new publication on our hands. All right, so we have another question for Jackie. So coming in from Amanda, how did you select your youth advisory committee? Were they appointed by ACIC or did the youth have to apply?
Great question. Thanks, Amanda. So they actually had to apply. And it was like, we try to do as many sort of zero barriers program, like application stuff as we can. So we didn't go with like a reference type application process. It was basically interest, like, some simple questions about their interest. And we had 8 youth, 2 from each province, so that we had that regional representation. And in addition, we broke the ages up a little bit so that we had 4 youth who were the 15 to 18 age group, and then 4 youth who were the older, so that we could have that sharing of experiences. And when it came to the selection process, we actually had youth staff, like a student who was working with us at the time, and also a past youth sit on the selection committee with us, so that we could look at the selection. And then, yeah, we kind of like, as always, we're trying to move more and more away from matrices, as they're quite colonial in their structure, and trying to find creative ways of looking at how to select youth rather than just matrix, and found that the youth voices who were on the selection committee really helped. And we had they were just a wonderful set of youth advisors who are, I think 6 of the 8 are still very actively connected to us now. So yeah, thanks, Amanda.
Wonderful. All right, so we will be wrapping up our questions shortly. I don't know if we've got any last minute ones in the chat here. We do have a question from our own Julianette, but I was just wondering, what has been your experience connecting the global and the local in your global citizenship education, which is kind of what we talked about in terms of how we were going about things ethically, but I would love to hear maybe more from Wajid or from Nancy, peut-être en français, Nancy, à propos de comment est-ce qu'on peut connecter le local et puis international. But for either of you, it's an open question.
I can jump in. So I think we've found that it is difficult sometimes for youth here to feel that global issues are relevant to them, because it seems very far away and they feel far removed. So I think when designing youth programs, for example, in our Global Connect program, we actually aim to have that exchange where an international youth comes to us and participates in our programs, and in that way sort of provides that perspective in Alberta, for example, where many youth have not had the opportunity to travel internationally or experience these problems that other parts of the world face. But also, I think just being intentional with who you're targeting for the programs is really important. So ensuring that newcomer communities are being, informed that, first of all, these programs exist and that we want them to participate. I think those are a couple of strategies that we've tried to use to connect that local and global perspective.
Great, wonderful. And then I don't know if Nancy, you had a remark before we wrap up.
Ça dépend si c'est de façon globale ou avec les jeunes, là, c'est sûr que si on parle, je pense que souvent des échanges individuels, si on parle des jeunes ou si on parle aussi des adultes, la rencontre de personnes, la rencontre entre personnes de différentes parties de la planète, que ce soit des personnes ici ou ailleurs, je pense que c'est souvent quelque chose qui a un impact sur nous, mais aussi la question de, lorsqu'on fait des analyses des rapports de pouvoir ou lorsqu'on fait des analyses plus globaux, de toujours faire le lien entre qu'est-ce qui se passe ici, qu'est-ce qui se passe ailleurs. Et quand on pense à la pandémie, pour revenir à la première question que vous aviez, Delaney, la pandémie était aussi une occasion pour démontrer comment nous sommes tous interreliés à travers la planète et comment nos systèmes sont interreliés. Nous sommes interdépendants comme peuple qui habitons cette planète quand on pense, puis quand je pense aux jeunes, entre autres, les enjeux environnementaux, les enjeux de changement climatique, c'est quand même des enjeux qui préoccupent beaucoup de jeunes et c'est des fois, en prenant quelque chose qui nous préoccupe, qu'on est capable de faire des liens, que c'est pas juste nous, notre communauté, mais de sortir de la communauté pour cette vision, c'est ça, du local au global.
Ouais, c'est vrai. Absolutely having having that kind of awareness that the world beyond you is very much going to affect your life on a micro level. It's definitely kind of came to light for a lot of folks in a more real way than we might be used to. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much. Merci beaucoup à tous. I'm going to pass it along to Judy and Annette back to wrap us all up here. But I do want to just say before we wrap up, thank you so much to our panelists, as well as Eileen, who's had to head out, but wonderful to have her come in here and chat with us today. But yeah, thank you so much. I'll pass it along to you, Judy and Annette.
Thank you so much, Delaney, and thank you, everyone. That was really nice. I was taking notes, so it's always good to learn from everyone. Thanks for taking the time to attend and join us. And if you want to learn more about the topic that we just talked about, you can check out the council's website or the ICN website and sign up for our newsletter and all that. Yeah, and we'll have other events that we are hosting throughout the year related to this and public engagement. So you're always welcome to attend and let us know what you think. And I also wanted to thank the panelists for all your insights. It's really nice to hear about all your work. So that was really good. And obviously, Delaney, thank you for moderating the conversation and doing such a great job. And Matteo, who is not here, he's in the background, but making sure things are running smoothly. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, and I hope you oh, okay, yes, there are other 4 councils that we didn't hear about their work. Yes, we'll be hosting another webinar like this in the fall to highlight the other councils' work. So keep an eye out for that, and we'll let you know once that's planned. Yeah, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. No. Okay.